Good morning, everyone. Sister Gina and I are so happy to be with you today during this assembly time. Today our assembly will be the living stations. You'll notice that it's different from other years when we have had the living stations. Just like many things this year are different as a result of the pandemic. The things that are the same during the pandemic are the fact that Jesus lived the first living stations out of his love for us and his love for God, joining all of us together. Just like Jesus during the first living stations was patient, he was selfless, he was forgiving, we too want to be those things during this trying time of the pandemic. We want to be patient with our family members, patient with ourselves. We want to be forgiving of people in our family or forgiving of people in situations that may offend us. We want to ask their forgiveness, but we also want to be forgiving of them as well. And finally, we want to be selfless. We want to remember, just like Jesus did, to put others first.
So let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God. Our first station. Jesus is condemned to death.
Pray for people who cause others to suffer.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have saved the world. Jesus, without your help, we are like Pilate. We are afraid and sometimes do things we should not. Remind us that when we hurt those who are innocent, we hurt you too.
The second station, Jesus takes up his cross.
Pray for people who are in pain.
We adore you, Christ. We praise you.
Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world.
Jesus, you told us to forgive our enemies and do good to those who hurt us. That's very hard for me to do. I want to hit and hurt and say mean things to anyone I do not like. But I will try to be like you and show kindness instead.
Our third station, Jesus falls the first time.
Pray for the victims of violence.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you saved the world. Jesus, Herod called you a fool, but I believe in you. Sometimes I find life hard because I want everything to be easy.
The fourth station, Jesus meets his mother.
Pray for people who live alone.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you saved the world.
Jesus, our own mothers love us very much. We know how sad your mother was to see you suffer. Help us always to be loving and kind to our parents, our grandparents, and our teachers.
Our fifth station, Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus.
Pray for people who are treated unfairly.
We adore you, O Christ, we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have saved the world.
Jesus, sometimes I feel lazy. Sometimes I do not like to help other people. But you told us that you want your followers to serve others.
The sixth station, Veronica wipes Jesus' face.
Pray for people who dedicate their time to helping others, especially all those who are helping in hospitals during this pandemic.
We adore you, O Christ. We praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have saved the world.
Jesus, sometimes I do not even notice when people need my help. Give me eyes that are always open to see how others need me.
The seventh station, Jesus falls the second time.
Pray for people who are discouraged.
We adore you, O Christ, we praise you.
Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world.
Jesus, you loved your country and your people, but some of their leaders did not understand that you were the person God promised to send us as their Savior. Some of them hated you and planned your death. I want to love my own country.
The 8th station, Jesus meets the good woman.
Pray for families that are having problems.
We adore you, O Christ. We praise you.
Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world.
Jesus, many children like ourselves have had to suffer and die in terrible times. Many children do not have a home to live in, nor enough food to eat. We know that you love those children.
The 9th station, Jesus falls the 3rd time.
Pray for people who are addicted to alcohol, drugs, or harmful behavior.
We adore you, O Christ, we praise you. Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world. Jesus, sometimes I fall too, when I sin and do things that go against your love for me. You got up from under your cross. Always pull me up, Jesus, when I fall into sin.
The 10th station, Jesus' clothes are torn off.
Pray for those who live in poverty.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world.
Jesus, it must have hurt a lot to be pushed around by the soldiers and made fun of, even by the other criminals. But you showed us how to love and how to forgive.
The 11th station, Jesus is nailed to the cross.
Pray for people who are hurting inside.
We adore you, O Christ, we praise you.
Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world.
Jesus, you promised the thief who was crucified with you that he would be with you in heaven. That is where I want to go when I die too. Help me to forgive those who hurt me. Please forgive me when I hurt others.
The 12th station, Jesus dies on the cross.
Pray for people who are close to death.
We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross, you have saved the world.
Jesus, we could not be there on Calvary Hill when you died, but we believe that whenever we go to Mass, you are there in the bread and the wine. It's the next best thing to being under the cross.
The 13th station, Jesus is taken from the cross.
Pray for people who have died.
We adore you, O Christ, we praise you.
Because by your holy cross,
you have saved the world. Jesus, I do not know if I would have been brave enough to stay with you until the very end. All I know is that from now on, I want to be with you every day of my life.
The 14th station, Jesus is laid in the tomb.
Pray for people who live in fear.
We adore you, O Christ. We praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have saved the world.
Jesus, I believe that you stayed in the tomb only until the following Sunday. Then you rose from the dead. Thank you for dying for me and for coming back to life.
Boys and girls, we do know that in the 15th station, Jesus is risen from the tomb. As I've always said, and it's true today, the inscription on top of the cross is I-N-R-I. And we can think of that as Jesus saying to us, I never regretted it. Today, more than ever, we need to join together and pray for our world, pray for each other, pray for our families. God bless. Live Jesus
in our hearts forever.